Hello, I am Pratik from microvitasuperdiet.com. In this session, we'll develop a sharper discernment of your food choices over and above the isolated ways in which you may have been handling the wellness of your body and your mind separately. No matter which path you take, I wonder how you're doing psychophysically, especially in light of a few things that I have found, if I may share, because all these will lead up to the most fundamental criteria to ideally design your dietary landscape, as you will see somewhere towards the end of this analysis. Fermented milk is a probiotic culture, but why is it that all the packaged yogurt sold commercially, including the enlightened brands advertising no artificial color, no artificial flavor, still have artificial preservatives inside them? If the yogurt indeed is a thriving lactobacterial colony, then what are they trying to preserve? They fully understand that these man-made compounds are undesirable, but still they can't do without them because the probiotic bacteria, like any other prokaryote, can only survive as long as they have something to eat. But once all the lactose, their sole food, has been converted into lactic acid, the bacteria have nothing left to feed themselves on, and hence, as per the laws of nature, the weak, starving bacteria would soon be attacked by armies of viruses to finish them off. Which means that a yogurt is purely probiotic only as long as it is fresh. But to increase the shelf life, the dairy companies have no choice but to add something poisonous in order to prevent the bacteriophages from attacking and thereby spoiling the yogurt. That's why so many brands of yogurt repeatedly fail to act as a starter culture for making yogurt at home, even though lactobacillus and bifidobacterium are listed as their active constituent. In other words, the probiotic bacteria in them are all dead. Perhaps now you can imagine how worse the situation would be inside probiotic capsules, because there is hardly any food, all the poor bacteria unnaturally stuffed together. No wonder such products have been found to create problems, including some of those they are supposed to solve. For example, infections, incorporation of viral genetic material into your DNA, etc. And even though you never suffered these, but there has always been a grim, though understated impact on your psyche. And is it just about the microflora along your intestine? What about the rest of your mucosal surfaces along your sinuses, ears, and other cavity walls? Resveratrol, the phytonutrient in red wine that helps to fight off many lifestyle diseases, is actually produced by the microbiota inside crushed grapes to counter the growth of mold on grape skin and yeast during the winemaking process. Now, yeast is a fungus and they are agents of decay. Their job is to convert everything organic into inorganic. In other words, they are against life in all forms. And the irony is that some of the resveratrol is ingested by these yeast, thus making them even more dangerous to the wine drinker. In other words, wines give you a lot of bad microbiota in the form of yeast and its polymorphic precursors, which are all harmful, not just physically, and even in small amounts. Not to forget that the actual concentration of resveratrol in red wine varies drastically amongst different batches, and 95% of it is destroyed by your digestive juices before it enters your blood. Microvita Super Diet, by the way, incorporates more usable sources of active resveratrol as part of your regular life extension diet. Many real-life health cures have been reported by promoters of alkaline water filters. But was alkaline water the main curative? Basic chemistry tells us that the electrically separated hydroxyl ions, which make water alkaline, are all free radicals themselves. Paradoxically speaking, their excessive consumption can lead to cell injury, even alkalosis, thus contributing towards some of the very diseases they claim to cure, such as cancer, stroke, heart disease, diabetes, etc. Biologists know that germs don't just grow in an acidic pH. there are many which thrive in an alkaline medium, while there are still others which can adapt to both. For example, it is the acidity in your stomach and skin surface which defeats so many pathogens every day. Here are some other holes in the alkalinity doctrine as promulgated. Now, do you think all those complex health breakthroughs happened due to man-made alkaline water or because of overall dietary improvements? So if you have also moved towards an alkaline diet, then I would invite you to take the conversation further. There are quite a few celebrated alkaline foods in your menu right now which are actually unhealthy, holistically speaking. In short, one can be alkaline and sick. Microvita Super Diet covers all the other facets of your diet left untouched by the acid-alkaline hullabaloo. For example, their psychological reactivity to start with. More and more people are realizing that their current foods do not nourish them well, but since they have not been told about a better option, they continue to chomp their regular meals and then pop in supplements and or superfoods of all kinds with the vain hope of making up the huge shortfall. This practice betrays a lack of appreciation of your cell biology. Biochemist Barry Halliwell from the National University of Singapore argues that naturally occurring nutrients in any given food are structured together and react in specific ways during digestion, while supplements may not replicate that effect. Nutritional supplementations are based upon our limited knowledge of known nutrients, but we do know that there are thousands of different types of biomolecules in any given food. Don't the rest of these molecules also have any useful role to play once eaten? But synthetic supplements are derived from inorganic sources like petroleum filtration and are produced in a chemical lab. Most of them can't be used by our bodies as such and are usually harmful as per actual evidence. This is because all the nutrients always act only in a rhythmic concert with each other. Some examples are shown here. It is well known that excessive supplementation scrambles the ratios between your nutrients, causing toxicity as illustrated here. Professor Wiseman from the World Cancer Research Fund has pointed out that people who regularly take vitamin and mineral supplements instead of eating a balanced diet are at a greater risk of getting cancer. As a matter of fact, your small intestine actually forms defenses against the absorption of these excessively concentrated ingredients. To complicate matters a bit more, some nutrients exist in several different forms in nature, but your body can use only a few of them. Are you sure your multivitamin formulations serve them in the right chemical form? To make things worse, they all have artificial chemicals added for various reasons. These are not only harmful, but they also interfere with the absorption of the very nutrients the food supplement promises to deliver. Now tell me, when you have so many chemicals compressed together over a long period of time, subject to temperature, variations, etc., some of them are bound to react with each other, right? Forming unwanted molecules. Let's also talk about those specially formulated nutrients that probably do get across successfully into some of your cells. Example, ubiquinol, which is needed in every cell, and so how much can you ensure its delivery into each one of your billions of cells? Is it a better idea to empower your cells to produce all the coenzyme Q10 they really need? The bioavailable supplements in any format also come contaminated with many excipients. They are introduced to extract the nutrients from their original natural sources and then to parcel them together as a commercial product. Because they are present in only trace amounts, the manufacturers are not legally bound to declare them in the list of ingredients. The water content of living beings also carries subtle life particles, that is many shades of quantum microvita. So dehydration and or selective extraction of nutrients by subjecting them to unnaturally high temperatures also alters the delicate microvita ecosystem of the superfood, thereby compromising its life supportive value to you. Some superfoods may still be partially helpful, but they leave behind your basic nutritional puzzle unsolved. ConsumerLab.com, a customer-financed independent testing agency, regularly finds so many quality control issues with all kinds of brands, including the expensive ones. Their combined ill effects become apparent only much later in life, but by then you may not be able to link it back to your health foods because of the complexity involved in most health disorders, even if you don't consider the psychological angle of physical malnutrition. As per New England Journal of Medicine, tens of thousands of supplement-related health problems are handled by US poison control centers every year. As if to add insult to injury, the genetic engineering merchants of death have already infiltrated the lucrative supplement industry. A lot of your multivitamins and the thickening agents, adhesives, etc. that go along with them may be derived from genetically altered organisms and foods like corn and soy. Supplementation of amino acid L-tryptophan derived from genetically corrupted bacteria had killed or permanently disabled over 1,500 consumers sometime back. Many nutritionally fortified foods and drinks like bread, packaged juices and protein bars etc. currently carry chemicals extracted from genetically modified sources. I have compared the current nutrient levels of many common foods as tested by USDA with what they used to be a few decades back and found that there is a big drop in their nutritive value, averaging around minus 40%. In other words, some of your oranges may have no vitamin C, while the spinach that you munch may be bereft of its iron content. Not to forget that the fruits and vegetables you buy should ideally match your individual psychochemistry and health goals, of course. While organic foods escape the customary turnover applications of insecticides etc., in terms of nutrients present, they are only marginally better off. So many times I ended up with organic seeds, grains, beans, etc. which failed to sprout, which means they were dead. Milk derived from cattle who are raised in cruel, overcrowded barns where they are forced to eat grains and even animal products instead of their natural food can still qualify for the organic label, even though many of the milk's life factors get destroyed due to the abrupt temperature change during pasteurization. Not to forget the negative emotions imprinted on all such technically organic products. Many people are obsessed with their fat, carbohydrate and protein ratios. How much do you think is the percentage of protein in a mother's milk? As a baby, we grow at our fastest pace. To fulfill that prime necessity, a mother supplies a huge amount of protein, about 1% of her total milk composition. If you look at ancient cultures across the globe and their dietary pattern throughout different ages, you'll find drastic variations in their macronutrient ratios. So as long as we stick to natural ratios, we can avoid all the extremes. But that's exactly the case these days, tragically, with a psychological cost to pay. Your biology, chemistry, and physics exists in the seamless context of your history, geography, and civics. They constitute the sum total of your lively microvita environment. Therein lies the overriding principle to craft out an ideal meal or two, if you may. If one's body, emotions, and mind are tightly coupled together, as obvious if you look into your past, then shouldn't the most fundamental criterion determining your foodstuffs should be their ingrained microvita character? Isn't your future microvita driven? And utterly so?